Future. All right, fantastic. So why don't we just start? And I just want to extend a warm welcome to everyone who's joined so far. We're expecting more people to join, and thank you, Marilyn, again for being such a great friend and colleague to our Alumni Relations Department. For those who just joined for the first time, Marilyn is the Alumni Career Counselor, dedicated person here at BASE to help us, and even more important these days when we need to get through all these changes and all that. Just quick word that we very much obliged to your experience Marilyn, with the business entities as a recruiter and the HR person, and you definitely know probably a person who knows the best of our alumni needs in terms of career development here at BASE. So happy to see everybody, and Marilyn, you're on the floor.
Okay, all right, it's my floor. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. I see some names. I don't see too many people who are sharing their video, but I see some names I recognize. So good to see you again. And for those new people, welcome. So let me share my screen and share my sound. So can you all see this? Phil, can everyone see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay, here we go. Good. All right. So let me just move this bar down if I can. Doesn't want to come down. Okay, anyway, thank you for joining us. Today is such an important topic, the 30-second pitch, or often referred to as the elevator pitch, and it's one that's very overlooked when people prepare for their job search. So I'm happy for the people who are joining. I hope that you see how important it is. That's what I'm going to try to discuss in the next time that I have with you. Doesn't want to move. So I'm going to be talking about what is the 30-second or elevator pitch, when is it used, how to communicate your brand within that short amount of time, knowing who your target is, and the format of the pitch. And what I didn't put down, which I hope we can leave some time for, is maybe I'll get some brave volunteers to practice their pitch and get some feedback. It's a very safe environment. You know, you're not here to get a job. So we'll see what happens. If you feel comfortable enough, that would be a great thing. I'm going to leave some time for that. So why is it called the elevator pitch? Because it's just an illustration that if you, let's say, got into an elevator and maybe, post-COVID, when we can recognize each other without masks, and you saw the recruiter in your dream company, recognize the recruiter from, let's say, McKinsey, is in that elevator with you, and you have just enough time, then you're both going to get to, let's say, the 15th floor to be able to make some kind of positive impression, so that person will be able to want to take a follow-up meeting from you. Obviously, you're not going to get a job within that time frame, but what can you say to them that you can engage them and will make them want to receive a phone call, email, or some kind of future conversation with you? So the purpose of it is to quickly convey information. It's a quick commercial about yourself. It's to connect with a recruiter or person of interest, and it's to establish your interest in the field, industry, and company. So you're starting a conversation, but a conversation that's going to lead a good impression. And I can't say this loud enough. Like if this screen is screaming, it should be screaming. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and that's why this is so important. A recruiter friend of mine once told me that the 30-second pitch, like the tell me about yourself, that first impression is like the appetizer in a restaurant. If you go to a restaurant and the appetizer is terrible, you're really going to not look forward to the rest of the meal. And that's a good way of thinking about this. It's just really your chance. It's hard to climb out of this after if you haven't made a good impression. So that's why it's just, so important. Okay, when do you use your 30-second pitch? The answer is everywhere in the job search. It's to introduce yourself by phone or in person. It's for your informational interviews. I'm going to be talking about that next month, about informational interviews and networking. And even though you're not asking for a job, in the beginning of an informational interview, you're going to say, look, I know that you're just giving me 10 minutes of your time, but would you mind if I told you about myself, a little bit myself? So that would help, I think, you in helping me. So you have to, then you go do your pitch. It's in the profile section of your resume. I'm going to show you what that looks like. For those of you who have not joined me on other calls and, are not familiar with that on resumes, you can go back and listen to the recordings. It's the most common interview question about, tell me about yourself. I mean, you should be prepared for that question, not looking like a deer in the headlights when they ask it. And it can vary anywhere from 30 seconds, which is more the elevator pitch, to 2+ minutes when you're in an interview situation, or as much time as allowed. But it's still a pretty concise format. So I hope you can see this. I'm not going into resumes now, but I want to show you what a profile section could look like. This is after your contact information, as opposed to just going into a straight chronological resume, which most people do. This is a way to use keywords, which is a way to get through the applicant tracking system and get the attention of even junior recruiters who are looking. So the expertise part, is the skills, the keywords, but sometimes people have a little tagline about themselves, and sometimes they have results. And at the bottom of this, what they're recognized for, what their brand is. So I don't suggest, I'm not telling you you have to have this long a profile, but any of you who are job changers should really have this, because if you just do a straight chronological resume, people are going to typecast you by your last job. So it's really more imperative for people who are changing jobs. And it doesn't have to be this long. The most important part is skills or expertise, because those are keywords. So if you were confused about what I'm saying, just go back and you can get recordings of all the resume, the resume workshops that I've done for this audience. But the reason I'm saying this is the elevator pitch, because as a recruiter, if I know who you are or what you want to be, your aspirational target, and I know the skills you're offering and kind of something about yourself, this is the written form of your 2-minute pitch. I don't have to go and read a cover letter, which may or may not get read. And also your resume doesn't always travel with a cover letter. So that's why using this part of your resume to do your pitch is a good idea in most cases. So you are your own brand, right? We think of brands as companies have brands. We all know, certain companies are known for certain things. Well, people are known for certain things too. So this is something that you should think about. Like, what is your brand? And your brand is your unique value proposition. So I usually start people when I'm counseling them with an inventory of what they have to offer, right? You're in a sales campaign, and so you have to evaluate yourself just as you would do if you were selling a product or a service. So what do you want to take stock of? You want to think about your skills as they relate to what you want to do next, your target. And these can be both hard skills, which are skills that you have to learn, like Google Analytics or some kind of technology, some things that you get in school or credentials for. And other things are more soft skills, such as being a leader or problem solving or interpersonal skills. So there's a combination of both of those that you should think about. The other is attributes, which is more personality traits, characteristics as hardworking, dedicated, effective, self-motivated team player or self-starter. And then the most important is accomplishments. You can't just say I'm a self-starter. You need to give a little background about that. You have to prove it, right? And proving it is in the accomplishments. And if you haven't done this kind of, if you're in any kind of transition, it's a good way to start because it gives you some confidence. I tell people to look back in their work life or their schooling, if you're just getting out of school, and think of times where you can say to yourself, I did a good job and I enjoyed it, because we all have done good jobs of things that we never want to do again. So we're trying to use motivated accomplishments. And write these down and then flesh them out a little and take your top 3 or 4, because recruiters, people will, you're going to need these for your pitch. You're going to need these for the bullet points on your resume. You're going to need these on your fingertips when you interview. People remember, I see many, many people during the course of a week. I won't remember the responsibilities because responsibilities are boring for most of us, but accomplishments, little stories about yourself are the things that stick in people's minds about you. So, it really, I can't emphasize enough that the time to take one step back to do this, to go 3 steps forward, is so important before you begin a job search, to know your accomplishments. And it doesn't have to be like, when I say that, I don't mean like you won the Pulitzer Prize or you had a Nobel Prize or you solved world peace. It's just something for you that was a specific time that you felt good about your work. So the pitch is the backbone of your search. If your pitch is wrong or how you're positioning yourself, then everything about your search is wrong. Let me give you some examples of that. And this has held so many people back. So this is just for, you always pitch to your future, not your past, right? You want to write your pitch to what you want to do next. So here's I was working with a client. She was wanting to be an international communications executive. That was her target. So her before pitch was, I have 15 years of consulting for big 6 consulting firms handling all international marketing. Now that's not bad, but it kind of restricts her to big 6. Well, I'm thinking, I'm an employer. I hear she wants to work for a consulting firm. That's not what I have to offer. So her pitch is wrong for her audience. Her after pitch is, I have 10 years international experience, including Europe, Latin America, South Africa, and the Far East. Oops, East is missing. I have pitched to people all over the world, and 50% of these pitches have resulted in new business. Accomplishment, right? The strategy included corporate identity programs, advertising, international communications. I am talking today to you because. So this broadens her as not just someone who can work for a big 6 consulting company, but someone who is offering a lot of different skills in different walks of life and parts of the world as an international communication executive. So in fact, even a better example is I'm working with in my private practice, a fellow who's in China. He's been in China for 9 years working for Reuters. And that work is kind of he's being marginalized now because of the China relationships and because of, he's in the technology sector. He's looking for now a different type of job. He's looking for a job as possibly in PR or in consulting. So if he introduces himself as, I am a reporter, right? His pitch is all wrong. He's writing to what he is now or what he was, and not to broaden his communication skills, because a reporter is also a communication expert. So I hope that, that if you have any questions at the end, please, ask me. So you have to figure out if your pitch is to the future, to your aspirational target. So who is your target? You can't do anything until you determine who your target is. Okay, you can't tell if a pitch is good or not unless you know the target. So before I begin working on someone's resume or their pitch or their cover letter or any of this, I have to know who they're speaking to, because many people have, have done different things in their life. I can write you a great pitch about being a consultative salesperson, which I was for like 15 years, but that's not going to help me get a job as a coach, right? And I can write a coaching job and, conversely, that's not going to get me a job in sales. So you have to know who your target audience is. So how do you determine your target? You research the organization. You research the person you're talking to. Thank goodness for LinkedIn. We can really look at their profiles and see who we're talking to. If you're working through a recruiter, sometimes they don't want to give you the name, but if you can get it, you'll just tell them that that's going to make you a much better candidate. And, if you get the job, they make money. So you really need to know who you're going to be speaking to on an interview. You want to read about the job itself. What are they asking for? What kind of qualifications, what kind of skills? That's how we talked about, talking about how you're uniquely qualified for this. And you want to prepare some questions for them, some thought-provoking questions, not things that you could just, that anyone would know about the company, but something that that shows that you're really interested in them. And one way to do that is maybe to read their annual report, the beginning part, not all the numbers, and unless you're a finance person, but just the annual report where they talk about what their business strategy is. You can ask about, so you should have some questions prepared. So avoid common mistakes. And this is one of the most common that I see. I will tell them all my background and experience, and they will see where I fit in. And that is no, because they're not your career counselor. They're not there to figure out, okay, you've done this and how you're going to fit in. You have to do the research. You have to figure out what your skills are, what your value proposition is, and knowing something about their company, you tell them how you're going to fit into their organization. Now, of course, you can't know everything that they do. And so they might look at you and say, wow, you're applying for a job, this job, but hearing your background, there's another job that we're also hiring for that sounds like a better fit. So that happens all the time, but you can't just do a data dump of your life and have someone interpret that and say, oh yeah, I see, that's how you're going to fit into my company. It happens, but that's not, the onus is on you as the job hunter. Okay. So what's the format of the 30-second pitch? You want to clearly state your name, who you are, and what you do, right? What is your value proposition? Why should they care? You want to name some accomplishments. That's why you have to do that in advance. You want to speak to your skills and credentials and what makes you unique. You might not think you're unique, but you are unique. Some people are, I do this thing called I'm a certified strengths coach. Sometimes people are so close to their own strengths that they don't see, they think they take them for granted. So you really should find out, why you're unique. Then what are you looking for? You want to sound ambitious. You want to be, specific about it. Then ask for permission to connect in a meeting, and this is practice, and revise it. It's not something you should practice in the mirror. You have to practice out loud, practice to a spouse, practice to a roommate. You might sound silly at first, but you really have to have this down, because as I said in the beginning, you only have one chance to make a first impression. So you want to get this right. So these are all things that have to happen in 30 seconds. Your name, quickly about your accomplishments, what you're looking for, and the permission before that person gets off the elevator and you never see them again. Ask for permission to connect or meet again. So that's about the format that you use. Okay. So let me give you an example. This is someone who's a little, just graduated a few years ago. Hello, my name is Ashley Miller, and I graduated from Pace University in 2019. I'm very interested in a career in communications. In college, I was on the debate team. Also, I was a reporter and subsequently the editor of my school newspaper my senior year. During my tenure, we grew our readership by 40%. The accomplishment. In the last 2 years, I've been working in a small company handling internal and external communications. I am looking to join a larger organization such as yours, where I can make an immediate contribution as well as further develop my skills. Would I be able to get your business card and reach out to you for a meeting? So here's someone who doesn't have 20 years of experience, but she's making the most of what she has, right? She's telling them, who she is, how she's, done some things in college. She doesn't always only speak about her work life, because her work life has only been, and that might apply to some of you, hasn't been that many years. And why she wants to reach out to this person. So it's very quick, succinct, but it gives you all the details, and hopefully Ashley has made a positive impression on you. And here's another, somebody who's a little more senior. Hello, my name is Jane Doe, and I am a consultative sales executive with over 10 years of experience working for premier human resource consulting firms. I have built practices in executive coaching, talent management, and leadership development. In fact, I exceeded my sales goals each year by at least 20%. I would like to leverage my wide network of executive decision makers for a company with a premier reputation such as Korn Ferry. I know you're trying to grow your human capital consulting division, and I feel I can help you execute on that goal. Would I be able to reach out to you and discuss my ideas in greater detail? Now, in all transparency, that was my pitch for many years. I was a consultative sales executive, and that's the pitch that I used, or a similar type of thing, depending on obviously customizing it for the audience. And as I said, you can see this pitch is not going to get me a job as the alumni career counselor at Pace, but that was a different part of my life. That was my accomplishments. These are, this didn't go away. This is still part of my life, but I'm pitching my new pitch for an academic job would be totally different. It wouldn't be calling upon this as much. It would be accomplishments in coaching. So you need to practice it because, as I often say in my talks, people hire people. They make business decisions for personal reasons. So you need to sound, you don't want to sound stiff. You don't want to sound like it's memorized. You want to smile. You want to pause. You want to sound like conversation. It sounds like conversation. And the only way you do that is you have to own it. You can't just memorize something off a page and sound like you're reading, because you're going to sound like an automaton. And who wants to go have lunch, when lunch is back again? I mean, who wants to hang out with an automaton? So you want to be personable, so it's a lot to accomplish. I mean, you want to get the information in a succinct amount of time, give them the reason that you're reaching out to them, but also sound personable. So since we have the time, I'm gonna, so I, rather than, sometimes I think about getting a guest speaker, but this is one that I watched on YouTube, and I thought, at least, he talks, it's a recruiter, and he talks about his pitch. Actually, I think I'm gonna have you watch the 5-minute thing. I might bring it along a little.
Hey everyone, this is Byron Clark. I've been a recruiter for 5 years, and today I want to walk you through how to create an elevator pitch for job seekers, the basics of what you need to know to feel comfortable speaking in front of a hiring manager or any interviewer. In particular, we're going to focus in on what you're going to respond with when they say, tell me about yourself. The basic idea behind an elevator pitch in a broader sense is you're in an elevator with somebody, You have 30 seconds. What are you going to say to catch their attention enough that they want to learn more when that elevator ride ends? So that's the basic idea, but we're going to narrow it down for that one specific question of tell me about yourself, or what can you tell me about yourself? So this elevator pitch for job seekers is very important. The first reason is it sets the tone for everything else you say. So if you describe yourself as an expert in one thing, it's going to elevate how future things you say are perceived. Whereas if you describe yourself as a generalist, or you don't really speak to a certain area that you're strong in, later when you go back to try to talk about that area and talk about your accomplishments in that area, it's not going to sound as strong. So you really want to be specific and pick the most important things to target for the job that you're going in to interview for. Let's go through the 3 basic steps in your elevator pitch. The first step is who are you and what do you do? So the basics of what you've been doing, what your skills are. The second step is why should they care? So you need to give something specific, something interesting, an accomplishment, something that sets you apart from everybody else who's doing what you're doing. So if the first thing you said was, I'm an accountant and I've been doing accounting work for X years, okay, what makes you different? What's a unique project? What's something interesting that you've done? The third step is, what do you want? Why are you telling them this? So if in the case of interviewing, it's going to be, what are you looking for? Why are you interviewing? What's important for you to find in your next position? And it's really crucial for you to have something other than, well, I need a job, or I don't like my current job, or I'm unemployed right now, so I need to find something, or I have bills to pay. None of those are going to be impressive. You need something compelling in terms of why you want this job and what you're targeting in your job search. So again, the steps are, who are you and what do you do? Why should they care? And what do you want? What are you? So if I were job searching, here's an example of what my elevator pitch would be. So they might ask, what can you tell me about yourself? And I would say, okay, my name is Byron. I've been working as a recruiter for the last 5 years. Most recently, for the last year, I worked in the New York City tech startup community, and my group was focused on helping growth stage tech companies hire software engineers as they grew and expanded. One of the interesting things we did is we put the first 5 software engineers onto Spotify's team when they first opened an office in New York City, and now they've really ramped up. But that was key to them succeeding here in the US. So that was a big accomplishment. Right now in my job search, I'm looking for a fast-growing technology company that I can come in. I'm looking for a company that's really doing a lot of hiring this year that I can help while growing my own career. So I really want to come in and make an impact somewhere, not just maintain the status quo, not just find a place where they're looking for somebody to just keep things running as is. So that would be my example. A couple of things to remember when you do yours. I mentioned this earlier. 1, be specific. You want to sound like a specialist. Don't say you're an accountant, say you're a tax accountant. Don't say you're a recruiter, say you're a tech recruiter with startups. One other thing to remember at the end, you want to sound ambitious. You want to sound that when you describe what you're looking for and what you want, step 3, sound like you want a challenge. Sound like you want something that's a little bit of a stretch. Don't sound like you're just looking to hop to the next job that's going to have you doing the same thing. Companies would much rather hear the former rather than the latter. So in terms of your challenge, review the steps above. I'm going to put a...
Okay, let me get out of this. So I hope that was helpful. Sometimes it's nice to hear another voice aside from mine telling you similar thing, and he's a recruiter, so he's coming from that background. So you want to, in summary, you want to tailor your pitch to who you're speaking to, right? That's very important. So the pitch will not be like a cover letter. Unfortunately, you can't have a standard pitch. You're going to have to vary it a little depending on who the audience is. You want to make it conversational, not canned or memorized, right? You have to be authentic. You have to be who you are. That's so important. People can sniff out somebody who's just saying words. And in fact, I think there's all these studies that it's more about how you say something. Maybe 80% of people are looking about how you say something, with confidence, authority, and then it is about what you're saying. So, just remember that. Sound excited about the opportunity, because people hire you because you are qualified, you can do something, you have the qualifications, And because you know you're fit, that's important. That's what the interview is about. But because you're passionate. I mean, if I had two people to choose from, and one is like, you know, I have to do this, and the other is, oh, I really am so passionate about getting into something that it's, you know, is about, you know, being green or ecology oriented or whatever. It's going to be make a big difference in terms of your candidacy versus someone else's. And practice, 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 practice out loud. So with that said, I am back to you guys. I shared mine with you, maybe not my current one. Is there any, you know, I don't want to say brave soul, is anyone willing to put theirs out there? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. It's just something that, you know, maybe myself or, you know, one of the other people can give you feedback on. That's how you learn. Anyone, I don't see too many people except for Lorraine and Monica and Sal that are even willing to show their face here. Wait, let me look at the second screen. A lot of people here. So is there anyone willing to do this?
I'll volunteer. I met Curtis Sliwa, it'd be about 10 years ago, out on in Manhattan in the street, and I happened to recognize him, and I introduced myself. I said hello, and I said, "Are you Curtis Sliwa?" And he says, "Oh yes, hi, how are you?" We chatted for about maybe 15 seconds or so, and I says, "Well, it's very encouraging what you do with your, you know, guardian angels and that type of thing." I was trying to make an impression and get a little bit of feedback with him. And what he did very interestingly is that we ended our conversation and he handed me his business card. For what I felt was that I made a connection, and it only took maybe approximately 25 seconds. But we exchanged a couple words. He was very pleasant, by the way. And you could see he's on TV and he does a great job on what he needs to do to present his point of view. So that was sort of a practice. I generally like the idea of always practicing how to interact with people on a short period of time. You don't get 30 seconds, you get 20 seconds in any elevator, high-speed elevators. So generally, it's if you recognize somebody that may be part of an organization, hey, hello, how are you? No, don't say hey, but say hello. Oh, I understand that you work for this company, and I'd love to have an opportunity to meet with you. Maybe if you have a business card, hand it off, and or maybe there's something you said that would be of interest, and you can exchange phone numbers. Quick, to the point. So like this, you can be more successful. And who knows, maybe you make a connection. You do that with networking as well, by the way. So in events and things like that. So it's very, very important to practice this. And oh, by the way, I learned this at Pace University too many years ago. So it's an important attribute we all have to carry. And I have both my undergraduates and graduate students always practicing. And it's very important. So I'm glad you guys are doing this.
Sal, tell me, what do you think you said within that time, aside from recognizing what he is it, can you think back to that 25-second conversation, and was there anything you said that made him interested in you?
Yes, and I said, oh, I believe you're Curtis Sliwa. And he says, yes, I am. And it was giving him the sort of recognition. I wanted him to realize that I noticed him, and we had that brief conversation. But he did have the courtesy of giving me his business card, and I had mine, and I gave him mine, and that we never really connected. But you never know.
Yeah. All right. So you accomplished the goal of having an invitation to go further.
Correct.
Great. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for
volunteering.
No. Anyone else had any experience doing this or want to try? It's really not. Just introduce yourself, you know, say your name, say what you're doing, and, you know, why you might want to be talking to someone, make the person.
Ms. Kaufman, I have a little brief story. One of the students told me. They actually were in an elevator and they recognized this particular president of this software company. And they engaged, the person was wearing a baseball cap. And she recognized the company through the baseball cap, and they had that little brief conversation. And actually, she was able to achieve an internship because she introduced herself to the president of this software company, and she worked there for the summer. And it was really something. She told me that introduction and that quick interaction really mattered for her, and she was able to get that internship. It really worked out nicely.
It's much better to put yourself out there than to be thinking, you know, when they walk away, oh my God, I missed my chance.
Correct.
My daughter, who speaks to everyone, she was she was working for the Washington Wizards back when, and Michael Jordan walked into an elevator with her, and she was just, I think the first time she's ever said that she was just speechless. And then afterwards she said, oh, well, I should have said this and that and the other thing. So I think this is like 15 years later, she still talks about she should have said this, that, and the other thing. So hi, Michael. You just turned on your
Yes,
video?
hi. I'll be happy to share my elevator speech.
Wonderful.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Albers. I'm a PACE alumni in the MBA program at the Lubin School of Business. I've been working in the financial industry for over the past 10 years as a database developer. I've done a lot of heavy data analysis and software development. I'm currently looking to pivot my career more towards a data analyst with the idea of learning business analysis and data modeling. I'll be happy to talk to you whenever you have a free minute. Thank you.
Terrific. Terrific. That was absolutely great. And nice, you introduce yourself nicely when you do it. And I'm just thinking what you said was perfect, but you can also want to say that what you can do for them as opposed to what you want to learn. A lot of people approach someone and said, I need to learn, this is where I'm lacking. So I want to work for you to make that up. You also want to talk about what you can contribute. So if in your case, you did it because, you've got years of this kind of education and experience. But thank you so much for stepping out.
Thank you.
It was great. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
See, are you in pain? That wasn't painful, right?
No.
Okay, great. See, he lived and he got some practice in front of people. Anybody else? Do we have any takers? I feel like an auctioneer. No one else want to turn on their screen? You don't even have to turn on your screen. How about that? You can do it if you're sitting in your pajamas. We'll take it over just take yourself off mute. It's a good opportunity because remember, we're not your dream employer. Valerie.
Hi.
Maria. No, Valerie. Hi.
Yes. I'm Valerie Roska-Diedick, graduated in 92.
Mhm.
That's it.
Okay. You still have 28 seconds left. So might as well use the airtime. So you graduated in 82, and what have you been doing?
Actually, I have been working in the retirement industry as a plan consultant for companies. Make sure their plans are compliant with the IRS and Department of Labor and, all those changes that are going on now with the new administration. And that's
Perfect.
it.
And are you in a job search or you're just introducing yourself?
Just introducing myself.
Oh, okay. All right. Nice to meet you. That's great. But if you did want to do something else, the only thing you tack on is that what you did during those years, and you knew the legislation, and maybe a couple of things that you've accomplished in that time, and a why of who you'd want to talk to and what you might want to do next. But that's not your.
I do have a question. What if I am changing, doing my, I'm actually going back to school and going in a totally different new way.
Right.
I've been in administration, but I'm wanting to go into psychology now, which is totally different than what I'm doing now. So doing that 5-minute, introduction, all my past experience is going to be irrelevant to a new field that I'm going into. How do you do that change?
Okay, so that's a very good question. Well, you will have on in your case, you will have your education first because your new education in psychology will be what you're leading with, right? And maybe you'll be able to do an internship or do a volunteer work or something that will give you some, something to talk about your new brand that might be interesting to you know, a recruiter. But what you're going to do before you launch a job search is really also to determine your target. So you're going to get a degree in psychology. You have to figure out what would be plan A, maybe plan B or plan C in terms of what kind of job you would want to get, and then do some research on what skills would those people be looking for. And so you're going to be looking at your past, not as it didn't happen at all, but psychology is everywhere. I'm sure you dealt with people. If you're dealing with people, you're dealing with psychology. So in order to make people adjust to these regulations in the retirement, you'll be, you know, you have to extrapolate some transferable skills so that you know, your experience is part of you, it's part of your life experience, but you might not be, you know, so like I said in one of the slides, it's up to you to tell the person what you have to offer and how it fits. Because for them, they'll say retirement, you know, planning and this doesn't make sense, but I'm sure there's some transferable skills that you used that will be applicable to whatever target. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
It'll take some work, but it will, you can definitely pivot to something totally. People reinvent themselves all the time.
Yes, they do.
Yep.
Thank you.
So good luck to you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Got a lot of people here.
This is Monica Wood, and I'm interested in giving it a go.
Good for you, Monica.
Hello, my name is Monica Wood. I'm a finance professional, and I seek to pivot to a new position in a mid-sized to large publicly held corporation, medical organization, architectural or engineering firm. The type of position I seek are accountant, senior accountant, financial analyst, senior financial analyst, or administration. I'm open to an in-person position in New Jersey and the New York metro area. In addition, I'm open to a remote position for an organization located within the US.
Okay, very good. You know, very good. Thank you for, you know, serving that up. The only thing I would say, I mean, it's a good general pitch when you don't know, you know, like let's say you're at a networking meeting and you're not exactly sure you know, who you're talking to. There are a lot of different avenues that you might, you're talking about a lot of different targets. So what you know, if you knew your audience, like if it was in an interview or you knew who you're talking to, you might want to pare down, like really drill more down on one of those types of things that you were talking about, that, you know, targets, because a target is a function, an industry, and a geography, right? So you had multiple of all of those going on, which is okay for a general, you know, a general introduction. But if you got more, you know, more into knowing that target, you might want to just talk about, and it doesn't mean that you might not do all those things. You know, you might want to explore all those things, but I would explore them one at a time. So it gives the person that you have a little more focus. It's just the focus part of what you're looking for that could be a little bit more sharpened. But otherwise, it was a great general information, and I appreciate your sharing.
Thank you for the comments.
Hello, I'm Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Hi. I was the editor-in-chief for Pace University, class of 1985 and 1986, which is kind of, it's something because generally editor-in-chiefs were their last year. So it was unusual for a junior to be the editor-in-chief of the yearbook. So I'm all about Pace. My career developed, and now this is my elevator pitch, which I only worked on maybe like a couple of weeks ago. I've been interviewing for two years. I lost a beautiful job due to like a merger and acquisition, and I'm trying to find this similar leadership role that I had. And so I haven't had a need for the elevator pitch because the interviews have always been, tell me a little bit about yourself, or tell me why you think you're right for the role, or, you know, they never get to this elevator pitch moment, but either way, this is what I crafted, short and sweet. I'm a creative services manager who helps sales and marketing teams create assets so that they can increase business and brand recognition. What do you think?
I think that's great. I think that's absolutely great. You didn't go back to your old job at all and say, I'm, something that I couldn't relate to. You say what you could do for the person. And that's what the employer is listen to. What can you do for me? It's not what they can do for you. I think you did a great job. My question was, in the beginning, you said I haven't had to use my elevator pitch and my interview, but if you've been interviewing at all, they're saying, tell me about yourself. That is the elevator pitch. It might be longer because you have a few minutes, for them to listen to you,
right?
But that's still, you're pitching yourself, right? So to get to an interview without the tell me about yourself question would be very unusual. Right, so that's why the elevator pitch is you might not be doing an elevator, and you might not be doing it for 30 seconds or on the street like Sal did, but it's still the first thing out of your mouth, right? It's the first impression, and that was very good. That was very good. So the only piece you're missing is what you're, why you want to work for them. And you're missing, your accomplishment. So you say who you are, and then you say you bring results, and it would be nice to say, as when I did something that showed that you bring results. There's a little bit of a proof missing. So if you can bring that proof to the table within that amount, it's like, oh, she brings results because if she did it for this company, she's going to be able to do it for my company, right?
Yes.
So just a little bit of proof, and that going back to what you did and showing where you did that. Even one example.
Yes.
That makes sense?
Yes, 100%. If I can share with the team something that I recently went on, on an online interview, and I got an opportunity to move to the next step. And I literally think it's because something that I only just figured out, via like YouTube tutorials, which is I was stuck on this, who I was, what I did, what I've done. I was stuck, my communication was stuck in the past, thinking that that's what they were asking. What have you done? Who have you been? Where have you been? So I got stuck in the past, and just recently, literally like a month ago, I saw a YouTube tutorial about make your whole language about the future. Like, I did this, and that's what I can bring to the table. I was this person, and I'm very comfortable being that person, for you. So I literally changed my tone, which was always about like future. And I literally think that's what helped get me this, this next steps, because I just went from past to future.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. It's all about positioning. You don't want to talk about you were in academia, and you don't want to talk about that if that's not what you want to do anymore. You need to know what your transitional, what the skills for your aspirational target is about. There's different jargon in every situation. So you have to talk about, because you can't expect the person to look at your past and be able to extrapolate that you can do something in the future. And that's what you did differently. So good for you. That's so important. You can teach this next time. Next time Phil wants to do this program. You just said everything. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing, Maria.
My pleasure.
I think we have one more maybe, or two more.
Marilyn, I have a question. Kavita Prasad here from class.
Hi, Kavita.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted. Class of 2004. This is not the elevator speech, but adjacent to the elevator speech. How, just because a lot of things are, I'm in New York City, so a lot of things are going back, as you said earlier, to pre-pandemic, let's say, are there any for PACE, any in-person networking and just career services development programs right now? Like what does that look like? Because I have no idea.
Well, as far as one-on-one counseling, that's me, and it is remote. But in terms of, I'm going to hand that over to Phil because, he's in alumni relations, and that's who you want to meet. You're a fellow alumni. And we were talking that in the beginning. Maybe can you speak to that a little bit, Phil, in terms of, you were saying to me that some of the things are now going to be back to in person.
We're looking into some in-person meetings, probably for the next semester, though, which is after the next calendar year, 22. So stay tuned on that. We found, though, that for the networking reasons, very powerful thing is our LinkedIn groups. We support LinkedIn PACE alumni group. We have Facebook PACE alumni group. Also, individual schools would have their own groups. And I know that people want to come back to campus, and we have quite a few questions on that. Unfortunately, that is something not our office necessarily decides on. That's a university-wide decision by COVID Target Task Force group. So we really looking forward to have some sort of in-person activities next year. But the question, I guess, for all of us is, and maybe for you, Marilyn, as well, is how this job networking, and I think we're gonna speak about it next month at our next session, how this networking gonna change completely, because now people have had the sense of doing things remotely over Zoom. So, and maybe even if you come together in the group with 20, 50 people here on campus, is that so powerful anymore as it was before? And won't it be different, just having 100 people on a Zoom call, or having 35 people on a Zoom call like we have today? What would you be your advice, Marilyn? What do you think about the future?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball here. I mean, I always like in person. I just think you can see body language. There's just nothing that replaces in person for me. But I'm old school, I mean, maybe some people would differ from me. I think that the Zoom thing is fine. It's limited. Look, I don't know how many people on the call now. If everybody turned on their cameras, we could talk. If there was, say, okay, I'm looking for, if you had your target list of companies. I used to run a branch of something called the 5 o'clock club, which was for more senior people. And the format was a lecture, and then we break into small groups depending on your level. So we wouldn't put CEOs with administrators or new graduates with, and then we would have people know the targets, and they would say, look, I'm looking for a job in, a PR firm in New York. Does anyone, and these are the companies, would anyone have contacts there? And we could offline, exchange business cards and get a Zoom meeting together. So there are ways to network even through this channel. But I think that once I'm looking forward to the times when it can be in person, or a combination thereof. But alumni are all over. My clientele are all over the country and sometimes international. So it's nice to see people, but I'm reaching a crowd that's geographically dispersed anyway.
I'll say that there are lots of opportunities to network with PACE online, and we have our new Alumni Association. Phil is very familiar with that. We'd love for more of you to be involved. And I think that, events, if you come to events in person, they're great. I love them. I recently, last month, started coming back to the city where I have my primary office for PACE, and I all the time walk over to the different PACE buildings and interact with colleagues and attend events that you just can't have the same, you cannot have the same interaction spontaneously initiate by walking and saying hello to somebody and, bumping elbows nowadays instead of shaking hands. But there definitely are a lot of ways to get involved. So I mentioned the Alumni Association. Also, we have lots of events that Phil and his group have put on for alumni, whether they're faculty lectures or other alumni talking about their careers and interesting career angles and things that they've taken to sort of, for some people who've mentioned today, reinventing yourself, And so there's just so much that PACE has to offer. But even if you go in person and you shake some hands, it's hard to come away, in my opinion, with, oh, you meet somebody for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then they're going to, endorse you for some career because they don't know you. So I think the long range networking, which you can do now more easily with PACE online, is going to be a key to job networking and developing your professional network, whether it's for a job or whether once you're in a job, it's for a potential customer or a vendor relationship. So I would encourage everybody to get as involved as possible here at PACE.
And I think in the chat, Phil put up the, who you are, Mark, your contact, and how to get the link to the Alumni Association, Phil, that you have in the chat.
Correct. That's the link to Alumni Association page, and you can go there, or you can just visit our regular alumni page, alumni.pace.edu, and from there you're going to explore a little bit, and you see all the opportunities of our other events, and including our next event with Marilyn, which is in November, and also how to get involved, how to volunteer, and definitely you will see how to contact us, and you can send an email to our general email, pacesalam@pace.edu, and we will be happy to reply.
Yeah, and I would suggest you also join our mentoring, alumni mentoring for students. You all bring a lot of experience. Even if you're looking for a different career, you have career experience, and it's just another way to get involved with our students. It's very rewarding, but also then you'll be sort of a little bit more tied into the PACE network. So you'll get different types of emails from our mentoring program. And, we do have, before the pandemic, we had sometimes mentoring evenings where we call people in a particular field to sort of speed mentor around with students. And then you would meet other people in your field, because we try to do those grouped in particular professions. So you would meet other people in the profession, and that's just another way to develop your PACE network.
Great. And I also want to mention that, for people who, like the person who's changing from into psychology, I'm sorry, I forgot who did that. There's internships at every age. It's called internships over 30, internships over 40, internships over 50. So if you need experience, internships count for experience. You're not paid, or sometimes you are paid, but it doesn't matter. It's experience that you go right at the top of your resume. But the mentorship program is terrific. I know about that, and I don't think a lot of people, I don't know if it's highly publicized. So thank you, Mark, for mentioning that. So I hope you all get involved with the PACE Alumni Association. Take it, you went to the school, you spent time and money, take advantage. And you can leave your inheritance to Mark. Mark's he runs that. So once you get this dream job, just sign over your inheritance. PACE would love to, have people support the school.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Marilyn, but just so everybody knows, my main role is to engage people, and giving at some point is fine. So I'm happy to. I've met literally on Zoom in the last year. I've met half a dozen people probably on this meeting today who have attended other meetings, and I'm happy to try to lend whatever PACE network I can, in addition to Marilyn's office and the Career Services office and Phil's outreach.
Terrific.
All right, thank you very much, Marilyn. Thank you, everyone, and hope to see you, next week for back to class lecture, next Tuesday, and next month for another career series installment.
Bye. Thank you.
All
Good luck,
right.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.